And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Morning Coffee. Grab your cup of coffee. Come hang out with myself and Robert as we chat about what is going on with us. Motivation.
In the world.
In
Yes.
the world.
Yes.
We're talking about kids. Kids, before we hopped on here, kids are crazy. I've been having fun with my 2-year-old, and it's funny because there's all these ideas of what you can do, because he started climbing out of his crib, so we put him into his toddler bed. He's been screaming, he wakes up at about 2 a.m. He's tired, or he wants to get up, midnight, whatever, and it happens a bunch of times a night. And this morning I woke up, Christine got up at about 2 a.m. and put him back in his bed, rocked him, got him to sleep, and then I woke up and went out into the living room, which is on our corner of the house, and he's on the floor, just laying there on the floor. So he fell asleep on the floor. It's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, I raised 5. So let's just say that everyone was different.
Yep. And that's what I was telling you. It's like my 11-year-old, almost 11-year-old was completely different than him. Like she'd go to bed. The only time she ever got up was when she wasn't feeling well, and him, he's just, I don't know what the deal is. We'll figure it out. Everyone's got an idea.
Absolutely. So it's funny. My picture of today was formed by yesterday. So I was laying in bed reading, and I reached over for my morning coffee, and my cup is tall, and so I wasn't paying attention, and I spilled it.
Oh,
right,
no.
I knocked it over. And it just so reminded me of being unintentional, right? You just kind of being absent-minded, not really paying attention, just kind of going through the motions.
Right.
And I was just thinking to myself so much about what we want to try to accomplish, we need to do very mindfully, very thoughtfully. And large part of our lives is not very thoughtful, right? We're not very mindful. We're not really engaged. We're not paying attention. We're just kind of going through the motions.
Yep.
And that was so, again, it wasn't a big deal. It's not like I don't have fail safes in place so that I don't really spill and ruin anything. It's not that. It's just that I thought to myself, how dumb was that? All I had to do was focus for a couple seconds on what I was actually doing.
Right.
Right? And I could avoid spilling my drink. But, spilling a drink, bumping your car in the wrong place, not being fully engaged when somebody's talking to you, and you make them feel, like they're not important. There's a lot of different ways we are unintentional.
Mm-hmm.
And you come back to the flip side of that, which was the message for this morning, which was the true measure of a person is what it takes to stop them.
Yeah.
Okay. And we are so easily derailed by emotions. We're so easy. See, like I could have got really upset about knocking my coffee over, right? But I just didn't. Because, it was really on me. That was really just dumb. And then I got a chance to rethink the way I wanted to operate each day. And then I realized that, this kind of stuff stops people. It ruins their whole morning, right? I just spilled my coffee, so my whole morning's ruining. I'm like,
Your reaction to the
there's a message
situation
here.
is
Right.
very, very, apparent to whatever that is. And it's funny as you're talking about it. Like, I feel like, you have the choice to react to it however you wanted. You could react to it like, well, okay, now I got to clean this up, or this is the end of my day. There goes my coffee. I can't do this. I can't do that. Blah, 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 blah. I got to wonder though, it's kind of one of those deals, and it hasn't affected you as much. I'm assuming it has, because I know that like we all have these different ways of this whole technology thing affecting us. Like sitting as a teacher, watching these kids who cannot get off their phone and need to have their phone with them every single minute, sitting there being on my phone, watching TV and reading things at the same time. Like we have this, they call it multitasking, but we all know you can't multitask, right? Like you're giving your attention to 2 things at one time. You're not really simultaneously doing that. You're taking the attention off of one thing and giving it to the other. So you're not truly focusing on one thing or the other. and we're talking about an analog thing where we're reading a book in bed, but on the same token, is that the way that life is? Like, that's a really easy way to do it. I don't get it. We're
Yeah,
lost in that fact.
yeah, and one of the grand multitasks of all time for me was is piloting a plane because you're doing a lot of different things. It's called your cognitive load, right? And so you've got a lot of load because you're listening to traffic, you're paying attention to what's in front of you, you're scanning your instruments, and you're feeling the way the plane feels underneath you.
Right.
Every little bump, the hum of the engine, all that stuff is being taken in your senses. And like you said, I am not multitasking. Truthfully, I
Right.
am actually moving very quickly between them, right? Like with like a laser precision that you're going through each one of them, right?
Yeah.
And so you're trying to be really good at it, and eventually you do become quite good at it. But again, you are just going through the motions, right? Of making sure that every little thing, and you're really, the one nice thing about flying a plane, it's totally immersive. If you had a problem in your life or your relationship prior to getting in the cockpit, it's gone.
Yeah.
Why? You can't do two things at one time in that vein, right? When
Yep.
you are multitasking at that kind of level, the world disappears. The only thing in front of you is what you've got to do, what you've tried to accomplish for that time. And that's back to intentionality, right? You can't fly a plane kind of half assed. If you
Right.
do, you'll crash. That's pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
That's where life has lots of guardrails, right? I have lots of guardrails when I bumped over my coffee, right? It really didn't go anywhere because I kind of have it protected. In other words, I'm used to my own ignorance, right?
Yep. We got a lot of people joining over here in the TikTok chat. What's up, Lindsay? Nikki, thanks for moderating. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thanks for tapping the screen. If you haven't checked this out, Robert and I just kind of talk life situations right now. We're talking about multitasking. We also go through his book on Wednesday, which we're getting close to the end. We've got about, I think, 6 more chapters in this bad boy. Ars Victorious. He's got, you can go get it on Amazon. It's a great book. Just motivating factors. Robert and I started doing this almost a year ago now, where we started going through the book and decided that we're going to work together on this on Mondays and Wednesdays and just kind of talk through stuff. So it's an amazing thing to kind of see what happens when you talk to different people and have these great conversations and how it moves you forward. So please make sure you like, share, review, subscribe wherever you can. The podcast is on. This actually goes on YouTube. We're posting it here on TikTok. You can listen to it anywhere you listen to podcasts. So, little shameless plug there.
No, it's okay. Shameless plugs are wonderful. And so, yeah, back to that intentionality and everything. So I've gotten to this point where I have a vision board up on my screen, which is the things I want to accomplish for a period of time. Well, the front part of this year, I knocked a lot of things off that list, right? I
Yep.
graduated with my first master's. I wrote a book, blah, 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 blah. Lots of things off my list. Well, as soon as I finished, I went into kind of a funk because everything was getting checked off. And
Right.
I at that point had this stunning realization that my goals weren't big enough,
Right.
right? Because I could accomplish them. And the minute I started accomplishing them, these were long term goals. As soon as I started accomplishing, I didn't have a next act.
Right.
And that can get you too, because then you kind of go into this, well, I don't know what I want to do. What's that going to look like? How's that going to feel? I know you're facing that career wise,
Yep.
right? What's the next act?
Yeah. We set these lofty goals. Like, we set these lofty goals that we think are lofty. We have this idea of what it's going to be, but I feel like a lot of times we don't set them lofty enough. And I
Very
get,
true.
it's funny. I like Grant Cardone a little bit. There's some things about him that drive me crazy, but one of the things that he talks about in life that really kind of hits me is that when we set a goal, we have to set it a little bit higher. Like, if I'm going to tell you that I'm going to go run, he uses money as an example, right? Like, I need to make $10,000. Well, his thoughts are 10x that. You need to do that times 10 because you're going to hit $10,000 if you set that goal. That's what's going to happen. You automatically know that that's where you're getting to.
Right.
And in order to make it more than what it is, you have to try and set that goal higher. You have to set it a little bit more unattainable than what you think it is. And you may not make 10x, but you're going to make a lot more. And that's kind of where I feel like you're going with this, is that you have set these goals and you may have not set them high enough. And hopefully the next time you set them a little bit higher. And obviously, with some of the things that you're doing, I'm assuming, like getting your doctorate or whatever, you can't like get 10 doctorates, but just thinking about how soon you could get that done, like how much harder. Maybe I'm going to take one extra class. Maybe I'm going to read one extra book. Maybe I'm going to, whatever that is, add a little bit more to it, because you're going to get that goal that you most of the time will set just a little too soft. On the other hand, you could set it way too high, but you need to make sure that you're setting it a little bit higher than what you actually think you can do, because you can probably do what you think you can do. You gotta work a little bit harder at it.
Yeah, that is so true. And always make sure that we're not falling in love with the destination, but the journey.
Yep.
So the journey to being an author, for a book of inspiration was a couple-year path. Okay, super. But what's your real goal? What do you really want? In this case, I was like, I don't know. Okay, that's a problem, because I really don't know what I want next.
Right.
That's the battle we face is always, it's easy with my PhD. What's the goal? PhD.
Yep.
Okay, that's easy. Well, not easy to accomplish, but easy to understand. Well, when you start deciding you want to be a writer or an author or a podcaster, right?
Yep.
What's the goal of being a podcaster? Is it reaching an audience? Is it making an obscene amount of money? Is it becoming number one? What's the goal?
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, like that there is always those goals. Like, to me, I think of those, what you just talked about, those tangible, measurable numbers as being important. But what really is for me is being fulfilling, right? Like it is a fulfilling thing for me to have these people that are in here listening, and maybe they need my help, and maybe I'm, help educate people. Obviously I want, to be the number one podcast. It's going to take a lot. I know that, to make money doing this would be awesome, because that would just be something that I could sit here and I could do what I love and make enough money to be fulfilling. But in order to get there, I have to do other things. And I think that that's what people get lost on, is that you have to be willing to put the work in, but you also can't just expect it to happen. I look at this as like praying. Okay. You think about prayer and how people, when things go wrong, they pray for something to go away, or they pray for money, or they pray for success, or they pray for whatever it is. Now you're putting your faith in God, and you're expecting him to help you do that. And some people just think that God's just going to do it for you, right? But the reality is that it's not going to happen just by praying. You have to put your best foot forward as well, I feel like. And that's part of faith, is knowing that no matter what, you might be led in the right direction to do what you need to do, but you have to do your part too.
There's a wonderful pastor had a great quote. He says, here's how the journey with God works. He said, you do all you can with all you have, and then God will show up.
Yep. And
think about that one for a second. All I can with all I have, and then God will show up. I like it, because what it does, it keeps you out there, keeps you motivated. I think one of the things I've done with my running streak is I've created the thing on TikTok so that my goal, obviously, is to complete the day. But my secondary goal is to have one person each day say, this quote meant something to me. This moved me. This motivated me. One person, because I said to a friend, that's 365 people that I've touched in a year. I'm like, okay, that's a worthy goal, right?
Yeah.
For 7 seconds? I mean, that's all I'm doing. I mean, it's not like I'm writing War and Peace.
Yep.
It's a 7-second goal, and the goal is to affect one person a day. Now, of course, many days I get 2 or 3, maybe 4, but it's just so neat when you can get a goal that's fulfilling, as you mentioned, because That's about fulfillment. That's not about any kind of metrics and numbers. We both know on TikTok that if we were trying to live on views, who cares?
Right.
Right? Because the algorithm keeps changing. And so, 200 or 300 views is a good thing today, but that was 600 6 months ago.
Right.
But my goal has nothing to do with the algorithm.
Right.
Just
Yeah. I
touching
mean,
people.
and that's the thing is you're building a meaningful audience. It's funny. Like someone posted in here a couple minutes ago. I'm, a couple away from 79,000 K or, and I'm assuming they're talking about followers. I'm a couple likes away from 500,000. The reality is that 500,000 people have seen something and double tapped on that screen 500,000 times. And I have 24. It's funny because we talk about followers and things like that. You have created a meaningful following. I have a big following, and I have very meaningful people. Lindsay's in here, Nikki's in here, Brad was in here. We got Todd Heiler's in here. We got a lot of people who I see every single day, and those are the ones that I see. So, I mean, there's really like 100 people that I actually reach and actually engage in what I'm doing out of those 24,000. So what's the meaningful thing is those people who engage and who are there for me, not these other who just were like, I saw you and that's it, like followed you because there's reasons for people following you, like, oh, this is a big creator. Maybe he'll follow me back or maybe this or maybe that. I'm not that big of a creator, but I have a pretty big following compared to a lot of people. But my views are still 200, like they're still low. And that's where it's at. It's like the same people see that. And we get the engagement of the people who care about us and want to be around us. And that's what it's about. Yeah.
Oh, that's very true. The comment was we meet the ones we're supposed to. That's wonderful. Because it's true.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too. I have a friend who went viral at 2.4 million, right, on one of her posts.
Mm-hmm.
And then 8 posts later, she had, 200 views and 3 comments.
Right.
Right. And so if your goal was to go viral, okay, check the box. But if your goal was to be a large creator, that's a completely different critter. And the question is why? What's the why behind what you do? Yeah. That's what I settled with the running streak a long time ago. Was I made my why simple: to get up, do it because I hated running. Yeah. Cool, check the box. 2, I got to motivate people, and my son has to get credit for that because he's the one that thought I should get on TikTok. And just like with these podcasts, I really do not like looking at my own face. Okay. I mean, I hate to break this to everybody, but I just don't like it. I don't like my voice, but that's okay. So I had to overcome my own problems to get to the point of realizing that I could affect a few people. And I was like, that's so cool, right? That makes a difference. That's good enough. So he was smart enough to realize that it was something that could make a difference, and it has.
Yeah. Lindsay says, oh no, viral is awful. And I have to tell you something about viral. This is the thing. Like I think I probably have 3 posts that have gotten quite a few views. And all 3 of those posts have nothing to do with what I do. So think about that. I have one that got 1.4 million views about repackaging bacon, like eating a whole package of bacon. And it was a duet. I got one that is actually my voice that is about Idaho. And right now there's a guy, like they stole my sound and he's using my sound he's using my sound as his sound instead of mine. So like, you're not even getting credit for that. This happens all the time. And then I had another one talking about my age. And these are all 3 videos that I went viral for. And They have nothing to do with what I do here. It's amazing. So viral is awful. There are so many things that can happen when they do that. You start in it. If you get engaged in the comments and you start going through there, people will tear you up and chew you up and spit you out. People are mean because they're jealous that this is going viral. I mean, you think of this. I don't know if you guys have seen, I'm sure everyone who hasn't heard of the Hawk Tuohy girl, like, is that something that you want to be famous for?
Oh God, no.
It has changed her life, but think about like it would probably destroy me all the hate or the disgusting comments that have come from that. when she was just being off the cuff funny, right?
Yeah. What was so interesting, especially in TikTok, was we have created this world where we're saying good morning to each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's probably on a regular ongoing basis, probably 30 or 40 people that I say good morning to every morning, right?
Yep.
And it's actually kind of like a neighborhood. And we've formed something that's actually kind of meaningful, right? People, you kind of get a little picture of their lives. But more than that, it's like walking out to your mailbox in the morning to pick up the paper, right? And say good morning to your neighbors.
Yep.
And so there's ways to take all this technology and turn it to something that's more, I don't know, more has more substance to it, right?
Yep.
And like you said, you want to help people, you want to help them shape their success. I mean, that's all extremely meaningful. And you hate having 3 videos do incredibly well that have nothing to do with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird. It is weird, and I sit there and I hope that this is what I think. This is my thought process on this whole deal. I haven't reached the goal that I have for this podcast for myself or whatever that is. I haven't reached it. But what keeps me going is the fact that I know that it's possible, and that
Yeah.
it will never happen if I stop today. If this was the very last podcast that I ever did, it would never go anywhere else, because that's not, it just isn't going to work that way. You know, you have to be willing to put the work in.
Right. And there's a great quote that life can go from 0 to 100 in the click of your fingers, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what that throwing feature is, that one thing that catapults you. You just know you have to show up and you have to grind it out. And that's just, it's life. That's life. And it's unfortunate there's not, despite all the books, despite all the gentlemen like Grant Cardone, despite all that, there really isn't any special shortcut.
Yep.
Right? You just sit there and grind it out. Now, granted, some people get lucky early on and fast. But I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger being interviewed, and he was trying to become an actor, right? Remember, if you go back in the 70s when he did Pumping Iron, he said, I want to be an actor. And he had this horrible accent, right?
Right.
And the first screen test he did, they said, you're going to have to go to a speech coach, whatever, that kind of stuff. And he goes, no, this makes me unique, right? And he stuck to it. And, come on, his movies initially were awful, right? They were not good.
Yeah.
But he found his niche, right?
Yep.
Grinding it
was
out.
Funny. He talked about that too. Like, there's so many things that he did early on. Like, people, he talks about his name, like his last name. They wanted him to change his name because no one wants to say Schwarzenegger. And now every single one of his movies that you see, it doesn't even say Arnold. It says Schwarzenegger. Everyone wants to see that. Like, that was his goal. That was his branding. That was what made him unique, just like you said. And yeah, I mean, it's possible. He just had to do the work just like everyone else.
Right. And that's what you're saying is if one guy can do it, if Joe Rogan can do it, then you can do it.
Yep. Exactly.
You just have to keep pounding away at it and figure out what it is. I think that's the one nice thing about human accomplishment. Usually, if one person can do it, so can I.
Yeah.
I don't look at myself as being, I always say that I'm not really special. The people I come along in my life are special. But the reality is I don't ever think of myself as special, but I also don't think of myself as limited either.
Yeah.
If you can do it, I can do it.
Right.
Now, granted, I might not have as much talent as somebody else does. That just means I got to work harder.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of those things that doing the work is what makes it happen. And I go back to the flying, like I was going to ask you this question when you were talking about it, but if you've ever heard of the 10,000 hour rule, you know that it takes 10,000 hours to be proficient at something. How many hours do they make you fly before they let you fly by yourself? And it's not 10,000, but it's a lot.
20?
20,000?
No, it's about 20. No, 20 hours.
Oh, 20 hours. Yeah. So
20.
Do you think you're proficient at flying after 20
Oh, hell
hours?
no.
Yep.
No. No, I mean, to be really honest, when I got my pilot certificate, which was not my instrument rating, but my private, my instructor handed me my temporary and said, "Don't get any blood on this." Right? I mean,
See you
you
later.
know,
Good luck.
see you later. Good luck. And then I found out with the insurance companies, because I went out and I bought a plane, and I found out with the insurance companies that they won't touch you until you're really decently, until you're over 200 hours.
Uh-huh.
Then when you're over 200 hours, you're really, really dangerous from 2 to 400 hours, because that's when you think you know something, but you really don't. And
Yeah.
that will get you killed. Once you get over about 400 hours, you actually realize that you're always needing to stay engaged.
Hmm.
So it takes about, we're talking about air hours.
Yep.
It takes about 400 air hours, 4 to 500 air hours, to where you're actually not dangerous to you and your passengers anymore. You're actually reasonably proficient.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing that they, yeah, 20 hours. I thought it'd be way more than that. I was thinking like 500.
Mm-mm.
20.
Nope.
Oh. I
Hey
guess
man, the
at
first
least
thing you
like,
do.
yeah, I guess like if you're flying solo or whatever and you're in the air, I mean it's tougher to get into a car accident or in an air accident than it is a car accident somewhat, like there's a lot more open space in the air highway, if you would.
It's true. Yeah,
But
which
still.
is which is why, and you'd think that there are not that many pilots, and you would think that you don't have stupid pilots. But I have been so close to a pilot right before that I could see the color of his eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so that should tell you that. And what he was I was flying instruments, meaning a tower had me,
Uh-huh.
right? He was flying at the wrong altitude, and he wasn't being talked to by center.
Hmm.
And so they were directing me, and they said, "Look for him." And I looked down, and I'm looking. He's passing under me at less than 100 feet underneath me,
Oh my
looking
gosh.
up at me, and I could see the color of his eyes. And I'm like, "What the hell are you doing? You're going to get me killed,
Right.
right?" Like I said, and if you think about that, can you imagine putting every driver in the air?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh man. Oh yeah.
Reminds me of Top Gun. Yeah, I was inverted.
I was inverted.
Yeah. Oh, Robert, great chat this morning. Appreciate all you guys hanging out on TikTok. At one point, we had 39 people in there. I saw. It's great to see you guys. We appreciate you. Please make sure that you subscribe wherever you're listening. You can subscribe right here on TikTok. Just come hang out with us. 5 o'clock Monday and Wednesday Mountain Time, which is 7 Eastern for those of you who don't know where Mountain Time is, because that's kind of my time zone. Um, any final thoughts, Robert, before we roll out?
Man, everybody have a marvelous Monday. Have a great start to your week.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys being here, and we will see you Wednesday. Like I said, get your copy of Robert's book. Come check it out. Ours Victorious. I don't have the inverted filter on, so you're just going to have to read that backwards, but you can go grab that on Amazon and get in the conversation with us on Wednesdays, which we're almost through that conversation, but we're still going to have these great, meaningful conversations.
Super. Look forward to it. Thank you all for dropping by.
All right. We'll see y'all next time.